Hi there, this is Karina, and I've got another sneak peek at a brand new product from DPS Telecom, the Remote Power Switch. This is the first product of its kind from DPS, and here to tell us about the ins and outs of the Remote Power Switch is Andrew. So Andrew, what's the story with this brand new product?
Hi Karina. Well, the first thing about the Remote Power Switch is that it's hot off the production floor. And like you said, it's the first of its kind for DPS. This power switch allows you to switch on, switch off, or reboot any equipment you've plugged into it, right from your desk chair. I'll give you a quick demo of how that works. I've got this laptop queued up to the web interface for this particular power switch unit. I'll just access that. So here we are in the Remote Power Switch web interface. This interface is used for a lot of different functions, but probably the most common for this product is going to be switching devices on and off remotely. You can see here on outputs 1 and 2, I've set up a simple desk lamp and a desk fan just as example devices. You're obviously going to have servers, other important devices hooked in here, but these are good examples to show the power switching. So first let's turn on the desk lamp. I'll simply go over to OPR for operate, click that button. I'll get a confirm dialog, making sure I really want to do that. I'll click OK. You can see very quickly that the state is updated to latched and it's color coded. And the lamp's on. Now to turn on the fan, I'll just click the next operate button. Yes, I'm sure. And now the desk fan's on. Let's say I'm done with the fan, I want to turn that off. I simply click RLS for release. Again, I confirm. You don't want to do something to a device that's 100 miles away if you're not really sure. So these dialogues help. Click OK. And finally, let's turn that lamp off. So that's a quick example of how the remote power switch is very easy to use via the web interface.
So for all those technicians out there, this means they won't have to jump in their truck every time a piece of equipment jams up or needs a power cycle?
Yes, exactly.
Where are some of the most common places where you'd benefit from having the remote power switch?
Oh, well, there are really so many. Just about any unmanned site can benefit from a remote power switch box like this. If you've got computer servers, climate control systems, refrigeration units, cooling fans, the list just goes on and on. Any piece of equipment you need to control AC power to.
So Andrew, what are some of the tasks you can handle remotely using the remote power switch?
Well, like I said earlier, this switch box saves you from needless truck rolls every time you need a device switched on, switched off, or rebooted. What makes this remote power switch special is that it also monitors temperature and current draw. Like many other DPS products, we added the ability to monitor both internal and external temperature. You should always know the environmental conditions at your sites, and this box allows you to do that. For current draw, the remote power switch monitors power consumption on every port for very granular measurement. This allows you to identify which devices are drawing the most power. Best of all, this information is really easy to access with the secure web interface. It supports HTTPS, also known as SSL encryption, which is perfect for security-conscious organizations. You can log in quickly from any PC in your network with a web browser, and there you go.
But what if I'm too busy to log in regularly? Can I get any sort of automated notifications from this box?
Yeah, that's the other feature that makes this power switch special. It's SNMP compatible, so it can send traps to your SNMP manager. If a relay is latched or released, or if the unit gets reset for some reason, you can get a notification if you like. The remote power switch sends email and SNMP traps. You can create up to 8 notification devices, which can be a combination of email addresses and SNMP managers. I should also tell you that you can use SNMP to remotely control the power outputs using SNMP set commands.
So Andrew, you said before that the remote power switch can reduce truck rolls. So if anybody's watching this and maybe has sites across a large territory or just a few sites that are really hard to get to, this could be a pretty big deal. What kind of savings are we talking about here in dollars and cents?
Well, I talk to a lot of clients every few weeks when they visit us for factory training sessions. When you don't charge any fees for people to come to training, it's pretty easy to fill up a class. Being based out of California doesn't hurt either. Anyway, I was talking to one technician who told me their loaded or burdened rate on a truck roll, which includes the tech's hourly wage, fuel expense, and wear and tear on the truck, was about $100 an hour. Even if your rate is something less than that, truck roll expense still adds up really quickly when you've got to drive for 2 or 3 hours to get to a distant site. When you start replacing truck rolls with a few clicks in a web interface, like you can with the remote power switch, you've got a device that will pay for itself very quickly.
So let's say I need to get lots of power delivered to a single location, like a server closet, for example. Can I get multiple remote power switches to work together?
Oh, definitely. There's a special connector here on the back of the unit where you can daisy chain several of these together. The cool part about this is that those units will behave as a single unit, making them really easy to control from the web interface.
Well, now that you mentioned the expansion port, can you give us a quick tour of all the connectors?
Oh, sure. Right here, you've got the LAN jack for remotely connecting to the unit. There's the expansion port I just mentioned. This is a one-wire sensor port for connecting one or more sensors on a daisy chain. And this is the internal temperature sensor. Now for the power switching. You have power input A and the 3 power outputs associated with power input A. And then you've got the same thing here with power input B and the 3 outputs associated with power input B. Now this is the dual redundant power input model. If you don't need 2 power inputs, you can replace power input B with 2 additional outputs for a total of 8 outputs tied to power input A. Moving on to the front of the unit, we've got 2 circuit breakers, A and B, for the power inputs. Obviously, if you have the single input, you'll just have 1 circuit breaker. Moving on the front of the unit, you've got LEDs to indicate the power status for feeds A and B. And then these are the control buttons that control the power outputs. So if you're on site and you want to cut the power supply to a particular output, you just hold the button down here for 2 seconds. You'll hear a click, and that's the relay opening up, and there's no longer power going to that unit. If you hold down the button again, the relay closes, and now that unit has power again to control locally. This is a serial port for initial unit configuration. And finally, you've got a button that allows you to enable and disable remote access to the power switch. This is useful if you're on site and you don't want anyone back at the CO changing settings while you're working on something.
I know this product's brand new, but are there going to be any build options available for the remote power switch?
Oh yes, every DPS product is highly customizable because we do everything in-house, and the remote power switch is no different. I was actually talking to one of the DPS engineers earlier today, and he told me some of their future plans for this unit. Right now, they've been thinking about adding some discrete alarm inputs to give you some added monitoring capacity within this same chassis. Another option is adding some general purpose control relays that you could use to control devices that accept contact closures. Our designs are very flexible, so if you're watching this and you're thinking about something you need, give us a call and our engineers can do something for you within a few weeks.
Thanks again, Andrew. If you're looking for an easy way to reduce your truck roll costs, consider adding the remote power switch at your remote sites, server closets, and other critical locations. For more information on this product, call the experts at DPS at 1-800-693-0351. And if you want to see more products like this one, send an online message to the engineering department by visiting DPS Labs at www.dpstele.com/labs.